What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the PickSwap Media YouTube channel. My name is Sean Barnard as usual, and I'm excited to announce that for this video, we have partnered with WHOP.com, WHOP.com. WHOP is an all-in-one marketplace for sports communities and other digital products. If you're looking to find communities on all things sports, sports capping, sports betting, and sports fandom, head to WHOP.com/sports. They're the all-in-one digital marketplace, the Amazon of the future for digital products. I'm incredibly proud and excited to be partnering, so make sure to go check that out. You can click the link in our description and our comments. Thank you to WAP for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you guys for tuning in.
Check it out.
Step back, James Harden, right on target. Bang, bang, George Niang to Paul Reed from Tyrese Maxey.
Joel Embiid.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the PickSwap podcast. Returning again from last week, we have 4 games to cover. Really going to focus on the most recent 2. It's me and Sean Barnard as usual. Sean, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, doing great. We've had a nice slate of MLK games for the NBA today. A couple cool college games going on. So it's been a good day of basketball. Sixers are trending up. Things are going pretty well in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're starting to get into that time of the year where basketball is the only thing on. People know that you and I enjoy that time of the year with the NFL playoffs kind of getting towards its wits' end. We are going to be full force into the Sixers going forward after this. But to talk about the last couple games here, really since the last time we spoke, Tuesday night, big win against the Pistons. A loss that we will brush over on Thursday at home against the Thunder, and then back-to-back wins at the start of this road trip here against Utah and the LA Lakers on back-to-back nights. We got a lot to talk about here. We'll start with Embiid and what he's been able to do. Obviously, another MVP caliber season. Whether or not he gets that credit is not up to us, because we will definitely give him the credit. The rest of the world may not. But back-to-back nights, game winners or go-ahead buckets, and then clutch defensive stops as well. Just talk to me about what Embiid has done over the last couple nights.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is Joel Embiid is officially becoming the closer on the Sixers team. And I think that's something that we've not questioned at times, but there's been some skepticism, just kind of the difficulties that come with building around a big man in the modern NBA. And you see him becoming more of a perimeter oriented player. Even last night, he had that one-legged fadeaway when he kind of took Russ. I didn't love that shot, but you see his mentality of kind of being a wing in a big man's body. So he's taking upon himself to find ways to create his own shot better. I loved the play against the Jazz. We're looking at back-to-back nights where Embiid essentially sealed the deal for the Sixers team, which is all we can ask for at this point. That shot against the Jazz, I loved it, having a 2-man game between him and Harden in that. We're going to harp on that more later. But I think the biggest thing for me is I think it's important this team is kind of scrapping to wins. I think that's a trait that they need to learn. And it's awesome that Embiid's kind of the focal point and the guy driving it home.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's so nice to see him, get those opportunities. And I know a lot of times it was, I feel maybe towards the beginning of this relationship with James Harden, it was like, who's going to take the last shot. And I feel like for a long time, it's kind of been like whoever gets the ball first is going to dribble out the clock and take the shot. And we've seen it over, time and time again. A lot of times with Embiid, the game plan has always just been the last couple minutes, and then into the final minute is give it to him somewhere and make him work for it. And we've complained for a long time that it's just not a viable source of getting a bucket when you need it. I think the biggest thing I take away from those, final 2 buckets in both of these games is the fact that it was manufactured by somebody other than Joel Embiid to start at least. They both started on that left side wing with a screen and roll, which has been an impeccable pairing between Harden and Embiid, as of late. And then obviously, Embiid does get the chance to make a move and take the final shot, but it comes off of a pass where he's getting now a one-on-one against a lesser big, which is something we haven't seen him get the chance to do very often over the last couple of years. So I think it's really nice to see him get those chances off of passes from Harden, where he can then attack a matchup that he more than likely will win a lot of the time.
Yeah, totally. And it's both sides of the floor too. We saw the stop on Russell Westbrook getting isolated on that. That was big time. Guys are stepping up, and Embiid's at the heart of it. That play by Russ, I mean, to just kind of fully rip the Band-Aid on it. I can't believe that's how the game ended. First off, just a old school Russell Westbrook. Let me just drive as fast as I can at a guy and see if it works out. And it very clearly did not. They had multiple different options for better shots on the court, and Russ turned into hero mode, saw the worst version of him. And then after the game, calling for a foul on Embiid, which is nuts to me. And I get you can slow it down frame by frame. There is that little picture of his hand on his wrist. But I think really what happened is Embiid did not get his hand caught in the cookie jar the way that it was planned. I think Russ wanted that foul. He tried to draw it. And when he went up, like Embiid was out of there in time. I don't think it's a foul. The NBA clearly doesn't think it's a foul, that they went and reviewed it, dropped the 2-minute report or whatever, and said it is still not a foul. Russ coming to the media right after the game with screenshots and pictures showing how he got fouled. I also don't even think it's a shot. He's saying it's a shot. I think he was trying to throw it to the corner I think it was Troy Brown there. Like, that's what it looked like to me. So all strange stuff, big time loser energy to go for the foul calling right away. And I can't believe that Russell Westbrook with a one-on-one and Joel Embiid saw that as a matchup that was in his favor.
Yeah, especially when Embiid, is a really smart defender, on top of that with the way Russ has been shooting the basketball. I mean, just, historically over the last couple of years, Embiid doesn't necessarily have to respect the jumper as much. So he's able to, give him a driving lane that he can recover to and make a defensive play towards the end of that shot or pass, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, man. I don't know why, like, it's even a thing that, like, players bring up. Obviously, like, it's a big deal at that point in time, but, like, they had chances. They gave up back-to-back-to-back threes, with a couple minutes left where the Sixers were down 5 and then, came back, went up 4. Like, it's just the stuff you had chances, and you got an offensive rebound, I think, in that last possession with Russ, and he just never looked, out again. He had it in his hand. He decided he was gonna take it, and, that's the risk you run playing the style of basketball he does. He's creating contact. He is going towards the rim aggressively. Sometimes things get called and sometimes they don't. So that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles for them. It really wasn't egregious enough, I think, to be like running a campaign post game for it though.
Yeah, no, and I got that vibe of that's what they were kind of doing. And Darvin Ham after the game, talking about how like this is a matchup that they like. Like Russ is one of our best playmakers. Russ doing this, I'll live with that. I forget the exact quote. I'll cut it in here.
Yeah.
The down one, got, one of our best playmakers to the rim. He's in one of our best finishers at the rim. Has the ball with Embiid standing in front of him. I'll take that scenario every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Like, come on, dude. This isn't 2016. Russell Westbrook and Joel Embiid is not a matchup anyone should have circled at this point. And like, I feel like every once in a while people just forget what a good defender Joel Embiid is and just try and like try him. It happened in the Thunder game too. Shea went up for like a pretty crazy dunk with Embiid was like kind of on the side, and Embiid just kind of like, I feel like he gets like offended by it. It's like you seriously thought that was gonna work? And I love it when it happens. And don't get me wrong, Embiid does get caught every once in a while. He, like any big man that goes up in shot blocks, that's just kind of the nature. You're gonna get one that doesn't quite work out. But I think it gets forgotten how good he is as a defender when it gets locked in, and it makes me happy when he just goes and proves it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, plays like that, plays like the one against Shea, and he had a defensive stop at the end of the Utah game as well. Like seeing him on that side of the floor, locked in, and then really impacting the game significantly on that. And it's just it's so nice to see him prove that capability. I think he's been doing that for many years. I don't think he's ever gotten the respect defensively that he deserves because, like I mentioned earlier, he's such a smart defender that a lot of the times he doesn't have to block the shot. He doesn't have to get the steal. He doesn't have to do things that are going to show up on his stat sheet. I think he's incredibly, creative with the space that he gives and then uses with smaller guys where he can really contest the shot from a good distance while also baiting them into a position where he can actually still block the shot on a chase down. He's fantastic. We have seen it for so many years. It's just like we're beating a dead horse at this point, but defensively, he's really proved. He's looked really athletic and limber recently. I don't know if that's something you want to know as well.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed that as well. It feels like he's fully healthy and like we haven't seen that all season. The foot clearly looks fine, and also the chemistry with James Harden. This is, I would say, the first time, and to both, like, in fairness, this has been their first real extended stretch of time, really, since he's come to the Sixers. Like, he had they had a little bit of the streak after the trade last year, but they played under 25 regular season games together before postseason, and then obviously the injuries to start the season, both Harden and Embiid missing some time. Harden a full month, a little bit over a month, and Embiid with a couple different stretches for weird things. So this is the first like consistent stretch that they've been together, and it's just like it's starting to click. Like that little pocket pass that Harden just hits Embiid with looks so comfortable between both of them. You see them kind of like figuring out on like where they want each other, how they want each other, whether it's how Embiid rolls, the way he kind of finds that little pocket is something, because these are new skill sets. This is something Embiid has never done before. Like Harden is a different level of playmaker than he's ever had to work with, and it's just clearly working. And James Harden, this is the most spry that I've seen him in a Sixers uniform too. We see him attacking some mismatches. He's getting to the rim a little bit more, shooting over 40% from three over the last 15 games. That step back is still showing up in spurts, and that's going to be tested down the stretch. So we're starting to see it like come together, and it's at the core of what these two can do together between both of them. And it's just starting to work.
Yeah, and it's so much fun to watch when they're
Yeah.
playing well together, and each of them kind of taking their time to take over in different ways. And you've seen James Harden kind of do that as a scorer when Embiid is off the court. Normally, like at the beginning of the fourth quarter, he's done a lot of his damage there. You saw him in Utah dominate the fourth quarter, just dominate the fourth quarter and take over in a way that I feel like when he does that, we kind of remind ourselves like, oh yeah, this is James Harden that we're talking about here. It's been really nice to have that reminder consistently recently. You talk about the pairing there, they've been fantastic. That was, I think, last night was their 23rd, 22nd or 23rd game together this season. Like they haven't even played half the games with each other, and they're looking fantastic. They're still well under a full season if you consider both last year and this year combined. Still well under 80 games. When you talk about the games that they've played together, so watching this connection grow, Embiid's dunking more. Like
Yeah.
we talk about how we literally made this a point over the last couple of years to say like he never gets those easy dunks. He's getting them on a nightly basis, routinely. It happens often. And then when you think about that little midi that he has, free throw line extended elbow area, dude, it's automatic when he has
Yeah.
space. He shoots 65% on those. Like it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. And then he still has the Hezi pull up game, his creation off the dribble. He's still able to do, but he's getting those 8 to 10 easy buckets a night, or easy points a night, because James Harden just creates in that space for him. It's just been so nice to watch him not have to move hell and high water to get a jumper off.
Yeah, one weird thing that I've noticed with it, and I don't know what to make of this, but he's not super comfortable off like the direct catch and shoot on
Yeah,
that pocket pass. He likes his little like pump fake, and
the
he
dribble.
definitely, yeah, he does the fadeaway. He loves the fadeaway on that. And like these are me nitpicking, like I'm not super
Yeah,
worried about it, but it's just kind of strange. Like he doesn't seem to super like the motion of just that catching. I don't know. It's a little odd, but I don't know. Something I think with more reps will probably go away. Maybe not. Maybe he's just gonna be more comfortable with that as the rhythm. But either way, as long as the shot goes in, I can't complain too much. And with these two kind of clicking, the Sixers as a whole is clicking. And for as bad as the season started out, and as I guess I don't even know what the word for how Philly fans felt was, just up in arms, enraged, whatever you want to put it. If you look at them right now, sitting 27-16, so 11 games above 500, tied for the third seed with the Bucks, a half game back with the Nets for the second seed, won 15 of their last 19 games. This Sixers team is finding its stride, and like there's still plenty of time left in the season for them to kind of fully hit it, and we're starting to work into that where like it matters. And winning in the NBA is all about peaking at the right time, and we're seeing signs of like the puzzle starting to come together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I'm excited to see what we think they're going to do coming up here. The deadline's just about a month away. So we'll talk about that as we go. And this I think has been like the most quiet it's been when just between us, and I feel like Sixers media and what they're talking about in general. Like it's very quiet on that front. I really haven't heard much about movement on that end. Obviously, we're still about a month away, but I feel like at this time for the last 3 years, we've been talking about what could happen here. So that's a good sign, I think. But yes, thinking about the way this year started, I feel like a lot of people were just genuinely like disinterested, disappointing into the last season, coming into this year, a lot of injuries, and them just being a very like blah basketball team for a little bit. But we talked about this, man. Like the first 40 games are what they are. You're just playing, you're figuring it out. These guys still have not played a lot of games together. last night with the full starting lineup, what was that? The 10th or 11th game of the year where
Yeah,
they've
11.
played as 11th game of the year where you're fully healthy. Like they're nowhere near fully, at their peak yet, and that's okay, right? Like I'd rather be hitting this point and getting, moving now. I think defensively they still have a lot of work to do, but I think they have the potential to be that really, really strong defensive team. And something that they've looked to do recently is kind of change the lineups based on matchups. Just with Maxey having missed so much time, starts coming off the bench, goes back into the starting lineup, now comes back off from the bench. What are you making of that in general? And then Doc mentioned post game as well. They're probably going to roll with 3 different lineups. We'll talk about each of them, but just give me kind of the point of view of Maxey coming off the bench yesterday.
Yeah, so this has been something kind of like talked about, discussed throughout. I uh first off, there's way more like made of it than there should be. It's way more important for who's ending games than who's starting games. And I agree with the logic of there's games where like there's gonna be different lineups that's needed to close. There's not a singular blueprint to win in the NBA. It depends
Yeah.
on the game, depends on the matchup. And I honestly am in the camp that I don't think Tyrese Maxey should be a lock to finish every game because I think there are gonna be games where there just needs to be more defense. And Maxey is obviously a very important part of this team, a guy that I don't want to
Yeah.
diminish his impact whatsoever. But I think there's games where the Sixers will have a better chance to win when it is like DeAnthony Melton as the last guy out there. If they need a better defensive push, stuff like that. And I'm happy to see it just on the aspect of kind of what we mentioned. Like this isn't a finished product. I want to see what I want to like experiment, try things. And for
Yeah.
a fan base that has been like pounding the table about the lack of creation and the lack of experimentation from Doc Rivers, for me, this is a step in the right direction of let's just see if it works. If like it clearly doesn't in a couple games, let's plug him back in. Let's make it happen. And I still think it's super important to like maximize Maxey within the rest of the team, finding a way to get him, Harden, and Embiid all clicking. Giving him some extra run with the bench unit is worth an attempt at least. So I'm excited to at least see it through, give it a couple games, and see how it tries. I'm pretty open minded on what my thought process of at this point. I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not, but I'm excited to just see it like something new being tried.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. We talked about it, during his injury or his recovery from his injury, and then when he was coming back, we had this conversation, and I don't like. I feel like people think coming off the bench is a demotion or some sort of punishment or something. I don't think it is at all. I think
Yeah.
it's at this point it might be the opposite, right? Like
He
you
played 33
consider
minutes last night. 33 minutes.
he's
Yeah.
still gonna play that much. Like, he's still gonna play that many minutes. It's what he does. He's, the Energizer Bunny of this team, and you see he's gonna get those minutes with the starters. But I think it's important for him to find that scoring rhythm again. I feel like it's still, we haven't seen him put together that full game yet, right? Like the Maxi games that we're, used to seeing routinely from him. It hasn't happened quite yet. It's obviously it's there for him. I think he's just getting back into that rhythm. Obviously, as a long injury, the longest he was off the court in his entire career. So it takes some time there. I think it's a sign of respect to say, we want you to have the ball in your hands for your object on the court to be scoring. And what you're looking to do is, see yourself first. Whereas in the starting lineup, there's other mouths to feed. There's a lot of, ball handling that's happening elsewhere, a lot of playmaking that's happening elsewhere. I don't see it as a problem or a bad thing at all, to see him coming off the bench. And like you said, it's going to change. It's going to vary. And there's going to be a lot of nights where it's like, okay, we need that offense in the starting lineup. Max is playing really well. Let's do this. And I think both him and Melton getting comfortable coming off the bench is a good thing. When you think about the other option, which is playing both of them at the same time, which was also mentioned. And so that's probably what you're going to see as the 3 lineups that Doc mentioned is a Harden, Maxey, Harris, Tucker, Embiid. And then you have Melton in place of Maxey there. And then you also have a lineup where you have Harden, Maxey, Melton, Harris, and Embiid. So 3-guard lineup there. Do you like that as well?
Yeah, I do. It's another one to me is worth a shot. I think I'm more optimistic about that one, but I also need this. And again, there's so much responsibility on Joel Embiid's plate, but I need him to step up as a big man, a rebounder, a true guy that can control the paint, can control the
Yeah.
boards if that's going to be the case. And he really hasn't this season, to be honest. That hasn't really been his thing. He's playing like a wing in a big man's body and on the
Yeah.
boards as well. So as great as it is on the offensive end on him doing his creation, you got to be able to rack up boards because their rebounding numbers are not good. It's only going to get worse with that's the change. Melton, who is a relatively good rebounder for his size, but he's still a 6'2" guy. He's got 6'9" wingspan, so it makes up for a little bit. Super athletic, can get up there. He boxes out, he works, but he's never going to be like a super plus rebounder. So I'm happy with it. I like all these options. One of these lineups not having PJ Tucker in it is an absolute must in my mind. That has to be one of the options. Yeah. I'm still team send PJ on a vacation for the next like 3 weeks, whatever it takes. Get him back to having some life in his body because I'm really not seeing it right now. He did strip the undershirt. I appreciate that as an attempt to change things up.
I hate it.
You hate it? He does.
He looks naked. I do not like it.
Yeah. He does give a little bit of like looking naked vibes. I'm pretty sure it was the Pacers game that it was the first time he did it, and he did it at halftime. He started the game with the undershirt on, and then came out at halftime. And I was like, this is a whole new guy. Like, what are we working with now? But the PJ Tucker experiment has not been good. Again, the playoffs will be the true indicator if it works or if it was worth it, whatever. But one of these lineups absolutely should not have PJ Tucker in it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let that one marinate for a while. I feel like with him, I don't even want to think about what he is or isn't doing, or what his role is until much later on. It's whatever to me. It really is. But I don't know. There's a lot of things that we can talk about on that front, but I like it. We've been calling for this, so we can't ask Doc for creativity and a change and a different pace, and then be upset when it happens as well. It's kind of what you got to deal with here. I think it's going to be good to see what different guys can do. And like you said, there's going to be games, the matchups make sense. All of these guys are still going to play, right? Like Maxey's still going to get his 30. Anthony Melton is crucial on this team. He's still going to get his minutes. And then there's a lot of guys that are going to be falling in that line as well. I don't know. There's some things coming out about other teams and what other teams are doing. Are you thinking about the way that this next month is going to go?
I do want to ask you something, James. So I guess to start out with, we've talked about this kind of off and on a lot, but right now, where's your mindset? What do you think the chances Tyrese Maxey could be traded are?
I still think it's like very low. And I know that we're gonna both like go around this circle and get to the same spot. Like if OG Anunoby becomes available, like you think about things like this, right? Like you think about what it takes to win championships. I don't know. I still think it's very, very low. I don't think that he's going to be traded. There are certain players and situations and outcomes of certain situations that make you think, though.
Yeah. I'll say the percentage has grown in my mind over the past couple weeks because of, first off, the focus is clearly winning a championship for this team, for the Joel Embiid and James Harden core. The fact we're kind of dancing around trying to figure out how to make Tyrese Maxey fit into this is not like a great sign for that. And Daryl Morey's been super on the record throughout his entire time as a GM, as a president of basketball operations, of whenever you think you have like a 5% chance or greater to win a championship, you go all in for that year. I do really believe that the player we could probably trade Tyrese Maxey for is more helpful to winning a championship than like Tyrese Maxey as he currently is as an NBA player is, which makes me like worried about that. And I'm not vying for him to be traded at any point because that further like shuts the window for them to win the championship. And he's still like a super positive player and a necessary player to this team. But I guess the more I like logistically think through it, I don't think the chances are as low as I once did.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. I don't really know what to make of that. It makes me very it makes me sad to think about that. I just don't like the thought of that situation. But I literally just had this conversation a minute ago, and we'll talk about the way that this played out. So weirdly enough, and we can weigh in on this as well, like CJ McCollum essentially broke news yesterday as the very weird, and I don't think very ethical. I don't think so. As the president of the National Basketball Association's Players Association, I don't think that you can be breaking news that somebody wants out of their current situation on a team that's not yours. CJ McCollum, as a player for the Pelicans, should not be reporting without sources or without naming names who from a certain other team wants to be out. A lot of people are speculating it being Fred VanVleet. It seems like the Raptors might be in a situation where they want to start kind of blowing it up again, players may become available. So now you're looking at the Raptors, what their young core might be, what they're looking for, and what they want out of this next month or so. Certain players may become available. I don't know if there's interest. I don't know if there's conversations being had. But when you think about what this team is missing and what may become available, there's a chance that a guy that's an elite perimeter defender and also a very good tertiary scorer becomes available and would slide perfectly right into your starting lineup. I don't know. I don't know what you think about
Right.
that.
Yeah, and real quick, I want to touch on the CJ thing because I said something on
Yeah.
Twitter too and was having some people clap back at me. And my initial tweet was, "This is where this quote unquote new media gets kind of messy,"
Yeah.
because like you said, and CJ danced around it, saying like he can't name names because of
Yeah.
tampering, all like that. But that honestly kind of makes it worse because now you're setting all the internet sleuths like myself and everyone else. Like I saw a bunch of buzz about Gary
Yeah.
Trent potentially being the
Yeah.
guy because him and CJ played together, stuff like that. But you basically just stirred the pot. And like you said, president of the Players Association and a guy very involved on a contending team, a key player on that. Like it just isn't your place. And the people saying like, well, I'd rather it be these players than the media and the quote unquote like mouthpieces of the team. Like I get that, but like this isn't like CJ should not have any horse in this race, and he kind of just put himself in it. Is where I think it gets messy and where it gets weird. But regardless, it did happen. He did say it. This is kind of the rumblings. It shouldn't be a surprise that the Raptors are looking to sell. They are a very strange team and very strangely constructed. I've been pretty anti Toronto Raptors for quite some time. I'm not a Pascal Siakam guy. I think he's just not the guy that they believe he is. I've called him in my angry moments Tobias Harris with a steady green light. I have referred to him as that. I don't think Scotty Barnes is a guy that can be a primary 1A either. So I do think that they're a team that should be looking to blow it up and at least get yourself a chance at a true franchise cornerstone because I don't think they have one. And when that does mean players coming loose, they have plenty of guys who the Sixers could benefit from. OG is the top of the line name. I think his haul is going to be massive. I saw there was some like chatter about it being like on the in the realm of like the Rudy Gobert trade, and that can't happen. That can't remotely be, and the Sixers couldn't compete with that either. But like OG Anunoby absolutely helps the Sixers win a championship this year more than Tyrese Maxey does. And I guess the gamble on the Sixers end comes down to, is there a better chance with like this Harden Embiid core, or is it with like the back end of Embiid's career? Like, can Maxey ascend to a player who like keeps that championship window open? And I've said before, like, I think there's a world where Joel Embiid can be a super positive player where his usage is scaled down. He's more impactful defensively. He dominates the boards more. And I think that's the version of Joel that's going to be here like 3-4 years from now. If Tyrese Maxey is able to step up into that role, that's kind of, I guess, the balance I think they're trying to debate and strike.
Yeah. I don't know. It is the complications of being an NBA GM, analyzing your team and being honest on all fronts there. I mean, the conversations that we've had for years, well, I guess post a Ben Simmons year, is the fact that they don't have an elite perimeter defender, and tweaking the lineups and working around them is something that comes as a product of not having that steady perimeter defense. Harden obviously isn't the worst player possible in that role, but he's definitely not ideal. And Tyrese Maxey, while I think he is a very high effort guy and he does a good job and he's smart, he's undersized,
Yeah.
and
You can't do
that
anything about that.
you can't do anything about that. And it happens, and it's gonna keep happening. And when you look down the line at the teams that the Sixers are going to be playing, there's always an elite perimeter scorer, and that becomes a problem immediately.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you do. I don't know what you think you should do. I don't know where you go from here. And there are some lower tiered guys that I don't think would cost as much that would be sufficient in certain situations, but there's not guys that lock down the way that OG does. He's incredible,
He's very
actually.
good. He's very good.
He's
Yeah.
very, very good. And he's one of the only guys over there that I genuinely like. Gary Trent would be incredible as well.
Also, for
Gary
sure.
Trent, flamethrower. Would love him here. So if that comes up as well, obviously not for Tyrese, but if conversations happen around Gary Trent, I'm all in on those as well.
Yeah, not a Fred VanVleet guy. I'll say that too. I have no interest in that. Creates a lot of similar issues, and he just takes some really bad shots sometimes. And Van Fleet was a guy who undrafted guy who when he first came in the league, Wichita State guy, felt like he went to Wichita State for like 10 years. But
Yeah.
anyway, he coming into the NBA like it was an awesome story, like an undrafted guy. The pendulum's kind of swung to the point where he's now become like an overrated guy based on like how much responsibility and how much like they garner and want out of him, which has kind of become a theme with this Raptors team. I feel. I also think Nick Nurse, like as much as he gets his flowers constantly for being what a great coach he is, like they underperformed last year and like got it together by the second half of the season, managed to find their way into the playoffs, ended hot, and the Sixers obviously beat them in the playoffs. Another year where like I don't think they should be championship contenders by any means, but they should be a better team than they are. And kind of disappointing. I think the Nick Nurse train might have gotten a little ahead of itself for what a great coach he is. And I'm not doubting him. I still think he's very good and wouldn't mind having him as a head coach for sure. But kind of surprised, I guess, a little bit of the lack of criticism that's been directed his way.
I hate the Raptors,
Yeah,
so
me too.
you're not gonna say anything bad about them that I probably won't agree with. I do like OG, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough. I can dream about a guy like OG, but like you said, I think he might be out of the Sixers realm of possibility anyway. But these are the things you kind of stick around for, right? Like there's gonna probably be a few names that fall there.
Yeah.
So you keep an eye out. You see what the crumbs might be like, and you fill your gaps with what you need if you can do it at a reasonable price. So I don't know. It's tough right now because you're in a good spot. I think that they're probably just going to keep rolling here.
Yeah, they have to do something though because
Yeah,
they still have 14 guys on the roster. They still have an open roster spot, and if they don't make a move, then you literally just wasted Isaiah Joe and Charles Bassey for nothing. And the thought process behind that was like more roster flexibility, more cap flexibility. There's also, I believe it was Mark Stein that reported talking about how Jaden Springer and Furkan Korkmaz are likely to be traded to spare the hard or not the hard cap. I'm sorry, the luxury
luxury.
tax. Yeah, so there's going to be something done. You have to make sure you have to get one more piece, one sort of wing, one sort of rotation guy. Like they can't do nothing going ahead of the deadline because in my mind, then that would be a massive failure on Daryl Morey's part because you did just waste Isaiah Joe, who's become a weapon off the Oklahoma City Thunder bench. Charles Bassey, who's playing relatively solid minutes for the Spurs. Now, granted, neither of these guys are make or break playoff rotation players for the Sixers. In fact, I don't think either one of them would crack a rotation, which is fine. But you still let two promising young players go for free with the mindset of flexibility. So if you don't capitalize on that flexibility, then it is a major loss in my mind.
Yeah, and I think moving on from Jaden Springer for the sake of a luxury tax would be
10
uh
points the other night.
yeah, dude, I like him. I like him, and obviously we haven't seen too much of him, but like that is a bad move. I think that's genuinely just a bad move. Like cutting guys like that, it makes no sense. I think okay, well, we won't even get into that, but to talk about, the other ways, that they're looking to improve, like, really, what do you know with the backup center right now? You've liked some things, you've disliked some things, and then you look at, the rest of the wing rotations there, like, we know that on paper Matisse is good, but is he? And then you have, the other fact of, like, you have Niang, and then who else is there, right? Like you just don't have that much going on. You don't have that wing depth that you need, and there's guys out there that you could become available, right, and should be available. Like I don't know where specifically in your head. Maybe we'll talk about this next week, but like there has to be something done there, and there's got to be a way to package up, $9-10 million to move for a reasonable improvement in that wing depth area, just where they have nobody there that's significant.
Yeah, Daniel House, huge swing and a miss, man. Like that's a guy that we spent like our biannual exception on. That was like a pretty, I don't want to say key addition, but a guy we expected to at least be like a rotation piece and a role player. And
Yeah.
all he wants to do is take step backs and try and dunk people's heads off, which in some regards I respect, but it's just not a playable NBA rotation piece. And
Yeah.
like that was the hope was that roster spot specifically was the guy that could have been that role. And he's not,
Yeah.
he's not good enough to play. I'm not yelling at Doc for not playing him because he shouldn't. He's not quite good enough, not consistent enough. He is that type of like athlete wing that we're looking for, but he's just not to the caliber. And the Furkan Korkmaz experiments obviously seems to be over. The plug seems to be pulled on that. Matisse Thybulle, I also don't think, I think it's pretty clear that Doc doesn't like actually. And I'm also like I mean, I think Matisse is going to probably throughout his career just be a guy that fans are so torn over and fight over that some love him, some don't. I won't get behind the like the allowing guys to get in front of him in favor of that like poke ahead. I think that is the root of what Doc Rivers hates. He also just loves to foul jump shooters, man. And he did it again last night. He
Yeah.
fouled Russell Westbrook on a 3 last night, and he fouled him on a mid-range jumper too. And it's like Russ is literally shooting like 30% on mid-range this year. It's like you just and he comes up arguing about it, and it's like, dude, that was so clearly a foul. Like you just killed him on that. You very much got every part of his arm. So just so maddening. The Sixers are loaded with these frustrating, maddening wings, and none of them are good enough for a playoff rotation.
Yeah. So I think that's where, and honestly, do them both a favor and just trade them to the same spot. I know they're good friends. So take Furkan and take Matisse, make it $9.5 million to use, and move on. And
Yeah.
I think that's a very genuine thing that could happen. And I don't see why not. And there's guys out there. I really like Sadiq Bey. I know there was something that came up about him earlier this season. That is a plug play, like right away. Anyway, we won't go down that path. There's a lot more time about a month. Is it when do you know the exact date of the trade deadline this year?
I believe February 8th is off the
Okay,
top of my head. It's either 8th, 9th, 10th, something in that. But
right.
yeah, about a month, a little less.
Okay, so we're a little under a month here. We'll be increasing this conversation as we go, especially as things start to heat up as well. I feel like the NBA always does this where it's a little bit like suspiciously quiet halfway into January, and then we hit that third week of January, and people just start going crazy. So it feels like we're close to a tipping point here. Like you said, a lot of games going on today, a lot of different things happening along the league. When do the Sixers play next? You got that on tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow. Clippers next, I believe. They're in the West Coast. Clippers, Kings, they have during this stretch. So yeah, a couple of the late night grinds, and we'll see what happens. Either way, they're playing good basketball right now, and yeah, it is the Clippers tomorrow. So that'll be a fun game. We'll see who plays from them. But yeah, they keep on winning, they keep it up, and they're doing what they got to do right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we kind of talked toward the end of this podcast, like things need to change and some things need to happen. But honestly, right now they're riding a pretty good wave. And the guys that need to be producing are producing at a high level. So come, the time where this becomes really important late in the season into the playoffs, hoping for some good health and this team clicking on all levels. I think we haven't even, seen the surface yet, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe on the channel if you have not. All right. We will get back with you next time talking some more trade targets, a little more specific about the trade stuff, and we'll see how this 6-year season shakes out.